Have you ever tried multitasking, doing 10 million things at once? I'm sure you'd agree that it ain't easy, with so many moving parts to line up just to get things right. Now, scale that up to Hasbro in the 80s, launching an entirely new line of robots that are more than meets the eye, getting toys onto the shelves, while coordinating the production of an action-packed cartoon and an ongoing comic series for the kiddies to follow their adventures. That's a lot to juggle. And in that kind of synergistic chaos, it's no surprise that sometimes something, or in this case, someone, falls through the cracks. When you think about the original Generation 1 toy line that ran from 1984 to 1990, you're looking at roughly 300 plus characters. And that's before you even factor in the Heed Masters and Target Masters, which push that number well past 400. And with a roster that massive, it's no surprise that not every character gets their moment to shine. Some will inevitably slip through a crack, whether because of a questionable toy, an underwhelming design, or just bad timing being released at the twilight of the line. And few characters embody that better than the Autobot Skids, a bot I've always associated with the word last, as in the last to get attention, the last to get a toy, hell, the last to be remembered. In terms of media presence, Skids was barely a blip in the original cartoon and only fared slightly better in the Marvel comics. But what makes that notable is that there's actually a very interesting reason behind it. See, while most fans remember Skids as part of the 1985 lineup, he actually wasn't. Yup. Skid's deep, dark secret was that he was actually released in 1984. Just not in a way you'd expect. So, as the story goes, during the initial launch of the Transformers in the spring and summer of 1984, Hasbro released the main Autobot cars to stores in standardized case assortments. You know, boxes that typically contain 12 or 24 individual toys. That being said, the original Autobot car assortment, designated by Hasbro as assortment number 5750, presented a bit of a problem. Sunstreaker, Sideswipe, Hound, Mirage, Bluestreak, Prowl, Jazz, Ironhide, Ratchet, Wheeljack, and Trailbreaker. That's 11 bots, which didn't quite fill the box. And so Hasbro ended up double packing the Autobot Spy, Mirage, to solve it. Though if you ask me, they missed a golden opportunity of just leaving the last slot blank and just selling an invisible version of the F1 racer to us kiddies. Am I right? Just kidding. But as the crucial Christmas season approached, Hasbro revised that assortment to freshen up shelves and eliminate that duplicate Mirage. They quietly slotted in a new guy, a blue Honda City Turbo mold from Takara's Diaclone line, rebranded as Skids. And the stock keeping unit, or SKU, backs this up, with the original 1984 Autobot cars assigned codes from 5751E through 5761E, and Skids following perfectly as 5762E, firmly placing him within the 1984 lineup. Meanwhile, the true 1985 Autobot cars like Smokescreen, Trax, Inferno, and Red Alert belong to an entirely different SKU range, starting at 5951F. Unfortunately for Skids, things didn't improve much come 1985. That year, the Autobot cars were split into two assortments, each mixing 6 older characters from the previous year of figures, including Skids, with the new class which came double-packed in each box. And the result? Skids became awkwardly positioned, a little late for the initial release party in 1984, and overshadowed in 1985 by newer, more heavily promoted figures. Like I said, literally slipped through the crack between the first 2 years of the toy line. And somehow, It gets even worse. Because of his awkward late inclusion in 1984, Skids was completely left out of the original animation character Bible, the key reference used by writers and overseas animators for the cartoon. But when Season 2 rolled around, he didn't make it there either because technically, he was already considered a 1984 character. So he ends up stuck in this bizarre limbo, a place that will come into play later on, which means we barely see him at all. In fact, Skids only appears twice in the cartoon, both as little more than unimpressive background cameos. First, taking on and getting taken out by the Insecticons, and then crashing into Prowl, getting run over by Blitzwing and turned into a throne by the Constructicon Scrapper. And just to really twist the knife, he's voiced by two completely different actors in those appearances, Dan Gilvezan and Michael Chain, which pretty much tells you how little priority the character was given. Thankfully, Skids fares a little better in the original Marvel Comics, which was written by Bob Budiansky, and this is where things start to turn in his favor. See, Budiansky wasn't just writing the stories, he was essentially responsible for creating the personalities and tech specs for the entire early Transformers cast as they arrived fresh off the boat from Japan. Basically, he was the Transformers Bible. So, even though Skids may have been a late addition on the toy aisle, he still received a full character profile and a chance to actually be fleshed out, courtesy of, well, the Bobfather. As per his toy's tech spec, Skids is the Autobot's theoretician, the kind of bot who would rather stop, think, and figure things out first, even if the battle's already started without him. Not exactly as cool as Warrior, but honestly, pretty on brand for a latecomer like Skids. He's a daydreamer, so caught up pondering Earth life that he literally bumps into things at 60 miles per hour, while everyone else is focused on the fight. To him, Earth isn't a battlefield, it's a laboratory. Deep down, we are more alike than unlike humans. And while he's armed with a liquid nitrogen rifle with a 600-foot range and twin electron blasters packing 20,000 volts, Skids' real asset is his mind. His massive memory storage lets him absorb and process information at incredible speeds, scanning entire libraries in hours. So yeah, robo-nerd. But in combat, that translates into sharp instincts and adaptability, even if his calm, reflective nature makes him seem almost disengaged. The truth is, he's far more capable than he lets on. He'd just rather not be fighting at all. Because while everyone else is busy fighting the war, Skids is still trying to understand why it's being fought in the first place. And thanks to Bob Budiansky, that nuanced, almost pacifist personality really gets the spotlight in the Marvel Comics. Not long after his debut, Skids finds himself separated from the Autobots after a well-placed attack by Ravage sends him tumbling off a cliff, effectively leaving him for dead. Like, none of the Autobots, not even Optimus Prime, go back for him. Just like that, Skids is written out. Or so it seems. Damaged and alone, Skids is discovered by a human woman named Charlene, who has him repaired and, completely unaware of his true nature, uses him as her personal car. But when Skids eventually reveals himself, something unexpected happens. Instead of rushing back to the war, he stays. Fascinated by human life and worn down by endless conflict, he settles into this quiet, almost surreal existence. An interspecies friendship where he simply observes, learns, and probably enjoys the occasional car wash a little too much. And to be clear, Charlene offered Skids a buff job, okay? Perfectly normal, nothing weird here. Get your mind out of the gutter. Anyway, peace doesn't last. Hunted down by Ravage, Skids is eventually forced to confront the one thing he's been avoiding, the fight. And when Charlene's life is on the line, the theoretician becomes a warrior. Or at least, the smarter bot, managing to defeat Ravage by sending the Decepticon plummeting down a mineshaft. Unfortunately, the victory comes with clarity. As much as Skids wants to stay, he knows he can't. In his words, his life as an Autobot warrior and Charlene's life as a cashier just aren't compatible. Harsh. I know, but let's cut Skid some slack on his lack of human breakup finesse. I mean, I believe he literally just came back online on Earth a few issues prior. Another interesting Skids story comes from the Transformers UK comics, where writer Simon Furman takes the idea of Skids being out of place and pushes it to the extreme. Skids is accidentally zapped into an interdimensional void known as Limbo, ironically mirroring his own awkward release in the toy line, in order to stabilize a timeline disrupted by the arrival of Galvatron from the future. And Skids remains trapped in Limbo for 2 years during the whole Time Wars arc. But Limbo isn't empty, it's inhabited by parasitic creatures that feed on thoughts and dreams, slowly warping Skid's mind and apparently robbing him of his face. His imagination twists into violent, destructive fantasies, and when he finally returns to Earth, those nightmares don't stay in his head. They become real. Skids unknowingly turns into a walking source of chaos, manifesting monsters into existence. Believing that he's the problem, Skids does something very Skids. He thinks it through, and decides the only solution is to sacrifice himself, planning to trigger a nuclear explosion to take both himself and the creatures out. It's a dark turn for a character who never even wanted to fight in the first place, and creepily kind of foreshadowing a similar fate for a later incarnation of Skids, which we will get to later. Thankfully, he's stopped by members of the Wreckers and their Decepticon counterparts, the Mayhem Attack Squad, who help him defeat the creatures and pull him back from the brink. From there, Skids joins this unlikely alliance, forming a new group called Survivor. The Survivors, finally finding a place where he actually belongs. And from that point on, things start to shift for the better. Later versions of Skid lean into what makes him unique, his mind. In the 2005 Vinyltech storyline, he becomes a central scientific figure, upgraded not out of necessity but to enhance his already formidable intellect. With a much huskier body, capable of self-repair through nanotechnology, Skids is positioned as a long-term thinker, someone built to outlast and outthink the war itself. His research into time distortions and phenomena like the chronal warp directly contributes to major Autobot strategies, including contingency plans against Decepticons manipulating time, just like his old pal Ravage. By 2009, in the Henkei comics, that concept evolves even further. Skids becomes a full-on multiversal operative, discovering dimension slide particles that, aside from literally turning him green, allow travel across parallel universes. Skids can even summon alternate versions of himself, one of whom ends up stranded alongside him and is given the name Screech. Together, they operate as quantum operatives, essentially turning Skids into an interdimensional investigator. It's a natural evolution for a character whose greatest strength has always been his ability to think beyond the immediate moment. Oh, and in case those colors look familiar, that wasn't an accident. Oh yeah, I'm going there. 2009 was also the year where we got the much maligned second live-action Transformers movie, Revenge of the Fallen, a movie with many faults, and the biggest of which was the introduction of Skids and, well, his twin, Mudflap. But let's be clear, it's not the same guy. Aside from the name and a similar compact car alt mode, this Skids is almost unrecognizable. Gone is the quiet, introspective theoretician, replaced by a loud, hyperactive character constantly trying to outdo his twin Mudflap. His entire personality revolves around seeking approval, especially from Optimus Prime, through reckless, over-the-top behavior. Basically reducing the guy to comic relief, which in itself isn't the problem. The problem was that Skids and Mudflap were widely criticized for leaning heavily into negative racial stereotypes through their speech, behavior, and portrayal as unintelligent and aggressive. Even design choices like Skids' gold tooth added to the backlash. Attempts to explain it away as brain damage or them being wannabe gangsters, only made things worse. So despite their heroic moment at the end of the movie, bravely taking on the humongous Decepticon vacuum cleaner, Devastator, both characters were quietly left on the cutting room floor for the next movie, leaving their fate rather ambiguous. But in the expanded Dark of the Moon comic adaptation, they are definitively killed off. And speaking of getting killed off, hopefully this obligatory plug doesn't kill off your excitement. Just like Skids, it's easy to get forgotten in the YouTube landscape. So if you're enjoying this video or the channel, please consider giving me a sub and hitting that notification bell, just so that YouTube doesn't forget to let you know when I upload a new story. That being said, however you choose to support the channel will be genuinely appreciated, so thank you. Anyway, despite getting more positive exposure in ancillary media, live-action movie aside, Skids' true mainstream redemption finally comes in 2012, in the pages of IDW's Transformers comics under writer James Roberts. In More Than Meets the Eye, Roberts takes everything that defines Skids up to that point, his obscurity, his omissions, even his time in Limbo, and turns it into the core of his character. Here, Skids is reimagined as a highly capable but deeply troubled amnesiac, a bot who has intentionally suppressed his own traumatic past. Leaning into his identity as a theoretician, this version of Skids becomes something far more dangerous, a walking supercomputer. As an outlier, his mind gives him the ability to instantly learn and master skills, analyzing data, predicting enemy movements, and becoming proficient with any weapon almost immediately. But that brilliance comes at a cost. During the war, Skids is captured and imprisoned by the Decepticons and manipulated into rebuilding what he believes is a teleporter to transfer prisoners, only to realize too late that it's actually a smelting chamber used for executions. Forced to witness the deaths of dozens of Autobots as a direct result of his actions, Skids suffers a complete psychological break and buries the memory entirely. And that becomes the defining tragedy of his character. Not physical damage, but guilt, trauma, and the consequences of being used as a weapon. From there, Skids disappears and is presumed dead, only to be revealed later to be a covert operative working under the morally questionable Autobot strategist, Prowl. Partnered with another Autobot, Getaway, Skids is sent on a covert Black Ops mission to manipulate Tyrus, a mentally deranged high-ranking judicial authority, into resigning using a nudge gun, a device that implants suggestions into a target's mind. Unfortunately, the mission fails, and while Skids narrowly escapes, Getaway, ironically, doesn't get away and is captured. Realizing how deep he's fallen into morally gray territory, Skids makes a drastic choice. He uses the nudge gun on himself, erasing his own memories and effectively resetting his identity. And that act leads directly to his reintroduction years later aboard the Lost Light, the starship captained by Rodimus. And from there, Skids gets a second chance. With no memory of his past, he chooses who he wants to be. He becomes a laid-back, thoughtful, and well-liked member of the crew, forming a deep bond with the quantum engineer, Nautica. The relationship between Skids and Nautica grows naturally aboard the Lost Light, built on shared intellect, curiosity, and an easy emotional honesty that neither of them really finds with anyone else. Nautica formally names Skids as her Amica Endura, a Cybertronian bond denoting a soulmate-level connection. And from that point on, they are essentially each other's person, or to be more accurate, bot. But while things are seemingly going great for Skids as a member of the Lost Light, it doesn't take long for his complicated past to catch up with him. Getaway, Skids' former partner from his Black Ops days, re-enters the picture after being rescued from a long-term imprisonment. And because Skids has wiped his memory of his past, he doesn't fully remember who Getaway really is, or the danger his now mentally unbalanced friend poses. And that danger almost immediately manifests itself when a reformed Megatron, yes, that Megatron, is granted co-captain duties of the Lost Light. An event that, let's say, doesn't quite sit well with Getaway, who begins his slow ideological break from the rest of the crew. That fracture leads directly to Gateway's mutiny. Using manipulation and the nudge gun, he seizes control of the Lost Light, stranding Rodimus, Skids, Nautica, and the rest of the Loyalists on Necro World, effectively leaving them to die. I mean, the place is called Necro World. That can't be good. And what follows feels hauntingly familiar with events that eerily mirror the nightmares that plagued Skids in the old Transformers UK story, told years prior. But this time around, instead of parasitic creatures from Limbo, it is a whole army of Decepticons, led by Tarn and his Decepticon Justice Division, literally surrounding Skids and his friends, trapping them in an impossible situation. And I mean, if you're not familiar with the DJD, well, they're basically a bunch of the worst Decepticon individuals you can imagine. Just ask Trailbreaker. Oh wait, you can't, because he's dead. And in that final, desperate moment, Skids makes a choice. This time, he doesn't have a nuclear option. Instead, he triggers something far more personal. He unlocks every buried memory from deep inside him, forcing himself to relive the guilt, the pain, the lives lost because of him. And Skids doesn't run. He accepts it. And that clarity, that overwhelming emotional weight, the trauma pushes him past his limits. His spark overloads, spasms, and unleashes his outlier energy, supercharging up his fellow Autobots for one last impossible stand. Skids turns his own life force into a weapon, not by accident, not by chance, but by choice. Because this time, there's no band of survivors coming to save him. Skids gives all he has until his spark basically runs dry. And so the bot, who spent his entire life questioning the war, finally lives up to his name and steps on the brakes and fights his own personal war and ultimately gives his life to protect those he loved. A stark contrast to Getaway, who meets a far more pathetic end, devoured by mutated scraplets. Apparently, one last thing he couldn't get away from. Sorry, I couldn't help it. Solidifying the tragic contrast between the two former partners. Skids dies a quiet death, almost unnoticed. But for those closest to him, especially Nautica, it's devastating. Unable to cope, she literally carries a part of him with her, hiding his brain module within her own head, refusing to let go. And when the grief becomes too much, she turns to a device that removes it entirely, erasing not just the pain, but her entire emotional connection to Skids. And in a way, it's the most fitting and most tragic ending of all, because even after everything, after the growth, the sacrifice, the redemption, Skids, the Autobot who was always forgotten, is forgotten once again, only this time by the one whom he mattered to the most. Speaking of which, thankfully, Skids is not forgotten where he matters the most, on our toy shelf. And just like the character himself, the toy that would eventually become Skids has a pretty interesting story too. Originally released in Japan in early 1983 as Diaclone Car Robot No. 4, Honda City R, it came in red and silver. Not long after, the mold was retooled into a newer real-world variant, Car Robot No. 9, Honda City Turbo, now in black, red, and blue. And of course, it's the blue one that would eventually become Skids. Now, here's the thing that really gets interesting. The real-world Honda City Turbo is a tiny subcompact car built for the dense urban environments like Tokyo and Osaka. But the toy had to accommodate a surprisingly complex transformation and store a Moto Compo scooter, a trunk bike Honda literally designed to fit inside the real car. Talk about real-world automotive synergy. Chef's kiss. But because of all that engineering, the toy ended up scaled larger than it probably should have been. And when it made its way to the US, where compact Japanese city cars weren't really a thing, Skids got completely misinterpreted. Instead of a small, zippy urban vehicle, he was depicted as this slow, lumbering station wagon-type civilian transport. Yeah, not quite the same vibe. Now, as for those other Diaclone color variants, it's worth noting that they weren't forgotten, as over time, they each became their own characters in the main Transformers universe. The silver version would make his debut in 2002 as a Japanese e-hobby exclusive named Crosscut, an Autobot ambassador and diplomat, who usually tries to avoid combat, preferring to negotiate peace treaties. Like Skids, he's highly intelligent and is said to understand over 250 Earth languages and 6,300 alien languages. The black version was introduced as the 2015 BotCon exclusive Burnout, and even if the toy doesn't look it, a female Autobot warrior known for her determination and stoicism. Unfortunately, she's also known for her stubbornness, which frequently leads her to argue with her allies. Finally, the red variant would make a grand entrance in Masterpiece style as Reboost, a Citadel Guardian for Autobot City, known for his outgoing attitude and many hobbies, including giving rides around town to humans, multi-spectrum landscape photography, and sci-fiber weaving. I mean, with all that extracurricular activities, I wouldn't want him guarding anything. Anyway, now since we're in the topic of recolors, another modern version would be the previously mentioned green Quantum Operative Skids that came sold with his partner, the orange-red repaint Screech. Once again, decos made as an homage to Skids and Mudflap from the movies. Speaking of which, yes, those dudes also got toys too. Quite a lot, actually. From their infamous debut as an ice cream truck combiner, to more standard deluxe versions, larger Human Alliance versions, and third-party Masterpiece versions as well. And I'll admit it, unfortunate racial stereotypes aside, I kinda like these dudes, so yeah, I got most of these toys on my shelf. But back to the real Skids, who made a proper modern return in the Japanese Vinyltech line, now transforming into a licensed blue Scion XV. Fully detailed interior, opening doors, hood, engine, the works. And if you're into fire, the US Alternators version has got you covered. But it was in 2013 when we finally received an official modern Chug version of Skids from the Thrilling 30 line, based on his highly stylized look from the IDW comics. I remember this one being quite sought after. When he was released via a local toy launch here in the Philippines, I had just gotten married and was in the middle of moving, and so while I was busy with all that, my wife woke up extra early to be at the mall opening to be the first in line to get me my personal theoretician. What can I say? Awesome wife, awesome life. Cool memories aside, if the classic boxy look is more of your jam, Hasbro finally delivered that in 2022 with the Legacy version. Not officially licensed, but close enough to scratch that G1 itch. That being said, if an officially licensed version was what you wanted, then you'd have to go through the Masterpiece route. And in 2021, Takara, in partnership with Honda to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the Honda City, gave us exactly that with MP53, a Skids that transformed into an officially licensed first-generation Honda City Turbo vehicle mode, featuring opening front doors, an opening hood with engine detailing underneath, an openable rear trunk, but curiously, no Moto Compo scooter to store inside. If you wanted one with a scooter though, then thankfully you're in luck. Once again, third party comes to the rescue with X-Transbot's MX-17 Savant, released earlier in 2018. And while some would argue that it's not as polished as MP53, it came with a scooter. And while both Takara and X-Transbots made the most of their engineering costs by releasing their Masterpiece offerings and all the relevant recolors and retools, X-Transbots did one better by releasing MX-17 T, Tai-Ho in 2019. One of the most unique and clever crossovers that doesn't pull from Transformers lore or pre-Transformers Diaclone history, but from classic 1980s, 1990s Japanese anime instead. Tai-Ho, which directly translates to arrest in Japanese, is a direct homage to the classic buddy cop anime You're Under Arrest, a series that follows two female Tokyo police officers, Miyuki Kobayakawa and Natsumi Tsujimoto, and their signature vehicles, a highly modified little patrol car and a tiny folding Honda Motocompo scooter that they use to chase down speeding sports cars. So yeah, talk about a perfect setup. While not the exact same car model as in the show, it's close enough. Throw in a couple of minifigures for Miyuki and Natsumi, and you've got the perfect homage to celebrate a beloved piece of Japanese pop culture. Now, honestly, I'm not very familiar with this show, but my wife is apparently a fan. So of course, while I largely ignored all the other repaints, this one I had to get. You know, for the wife. And speaking of wives, have you heard of Nancy? The wife of the Junkion leader, Wreck-Gar. If you want to know more about her, okay, fine, more about Wreck-Gar, I've got his story here. Or if you want my latest story, I've got that over here. Either way, thanks for watching, and I hope to hear from you in the comments below. Who is your favorite forgotten Transformer? Go ahead and tell me your story.